The following video will demonstrate how to log in and out of apps for added security. This is important when using the iPad with students. After viewing this video, you should be able to understand how to move apps into folders as well as log out of apps when necessary. You may want to hold your iPad while viewing the video on a computer so that you can follow along and practice with the instructions provided to you. Okay, this video is really just a kind of a precaution. Some of the apps that you will download and use on your iPad will require you to sign in and log into them, and that is fine. It is fine to stay logged in for the most of the time. I would just encourage you that if there's a day where you have got a group of students scheduled to work with your iPad, for instance, maybe they're recording an audio track in GarageBand. Maybe they're reading out loud and recording themselves in GarageBand so that you can play it back with them and let them hear it, and scan for mistakes. Or maybe they're using iMovie to create a short video project. And all those things are wonderful, but in a large classroom especially, it's kind of hard to monitor everything. And there are a couple of apps that I would recommend signing out of or hiding within a folder before you let your students use your iPad. For instance, one of the main ones would be the Mail app. If your Mail app is, like mine right now, where it's sitting on the main screen at the bottom, it would be very easy for a student to log into your account, not even to log in, to just click and go into your account and send a message as you, to reply to a message as you. So, one of the better options might be to take this Mail icon for that day and maybe bury it somewhere. If you just hold it down, maybe on a second page, and you bury it under something like a folder titled Bookmarks or something. Now, that's totally up to you, but at least it's not on that main screen. One thing I would suggest doing is if your students are going to use an app, say like GarageBand, that you pull that app out of a folder and you put it on the main tab for that day. And that way you can kind of go around and watch your students and know that they're supposed to go directly into that GarageBand app. I would always encourage you to create or arrange your classroom in a way so that you can see what's going on with that. I don't think it's a bad idea for your students to use your iPad in a one iPad classroom, but I think it's something where you need to know up front that you're responsible for the content. You're responsible for what goes out, and you just need to monitor that and watch it. Do it in a setting, probably especially with certain age groups, to where you're sitting at that table with those students during this time, or maybe your assistant is in the elementary level. You're not going to want to just turn the iPad over and say, okay, go to it, kids. Another thing is some of the apps you're going to want to sign out of. For instance, one of the apps I showed you at opening assembly was the Learnist app. And this is, something kind of like Pinterest, but there's a lot more education stuff. It's not really, it's probably not going to happen, but let me show you what could happen. If you stay logged into this app, for instance, a student could mess with it and go and make comments on someone's post, or they could post something as you by simply hitting the plus sign and going in there and doing a post, okay? What I would suggest doing, if you look in the top left corner of this app, and it's usually in the top section or at the bottom of a page of an app, apps like, Twitter and Facebook, stuff like that, you're not really accessing at school anyway, but they've all got a section where you log into it. You're going to want to make sure on the day that your students use the iPad to be extra safe that you consider logging out of some of those apps. So if I hit the little top left corner where those three lines are, I would see there where my name is, where it says Jason Varnon. So I would go in here, and then I would simply go to settings, and then I would log out, okay? I would log out of that account so that when I give that to the students, if they're using that, I don't have to worry about them doing that, all right? It's something to think about and something to consider when your students are using it. And as we discover more things that we can do for a more secure iPad in the classroom, then we'll send that to you. I know we're looking into some apps to where you can actually lock the iPad down to one particular app. And that way when your students get it, all they get is that one app that opens. But I would, don't be too scared of it. Just be cautious and pay attention to what's going on, because if you use this with your students, you're going to see more collaboration. You're going to see more creativity. And I'll help you some with that throughout the year. But I do think it's a good idea to be responsible and to know the types of things that you're logged into. Because if you say that GarageBand app that I moved, at the end of the day, if I want to move it back to its original folder, I just hold it down till they start shaking and drop it back in the folder. I can go back over here into bookmarks, find my mail app, hold it, drag it out, put it right back where it was. So you're not talking about something that takes a long time. I just think you should be responsible, be cautious, and be aware of what's going on. All right, if you have any questions, please let me know.